Hey guys, welcome to the ACH Automotive channel. Today we're working on our 1997 Ford Mustang Super Coupe swap project. We've got a brand new set of head gaskets here we're putting on the rebuilt motor. They're Fel Pro 9642 PT-1 head gaskets. These are for the 89 Super Coupe. Motor that's in it is out of an 89, that's going in it is out of an 89 Super Coupe. Block is the same, really, or it's very similar. I don't think there's not a huge difference between the 3.8 block that came out of here and this one. So that's what we're working on today. If there's time, I also have a rear main seal over there that I may throw in as well. Some of you guys are probably wondering why I didn't do this while the motor was out of the car. Simply as I just didn't have the room in the garage to have the motor hanging around. So we slapped the motor in the car. It's just sitting in here. So I'm putting it back together. Slowly but surely. So we also have a set of ARP head studs that we're putting in here. So we'll get these. Let's get the cover off and get the gaskets on and get the heads on and see how far we get. Get these guys out of the way here so that they don't get damaged. Let's get our cover off here. Put that off to the side. And before we start anything, I'm just going to take some compressed air and blow any dust out of the cylinders, just in case there's anything in there. Next step we need to do is take our ARP head studs here, and I'm going to sort them. So the reason these are in a bag and not in the box that they came in is because the heads were seated on the car when I moved into the shop. So I've got to sort these guys out here so that we can put them on the car. I don't remember what the part number is off the top of my head, but I will put it in the description. There are two sizes. We have some longer ones and some shorter ones. The shorter ones go on the bottom side of the cylinder head, and the tall ones go on the top side. And there's an orientation to them. You have an Allen wrench here and no Allen wrench there. So the Allen wrench has to go up, and that's the side that you will put the nut and washer on. Out of here. When you go to torque these down, according to the ARP instructions, you'll follow the manufacturer's recommended specifications. So that's why I don't know if you saw on my bench, I had the factory service manual for the 89 Super Coupe out, because I have that book, because that's the motor. That's what it came out of, was an 89 Super Coupe. So so what we'll have to do is these studs go in, you just snug them up, and then the head gasket goes on, then the head goes on, and you'll put a washer, which will sit on top of the head, and then a nut, and then you'll torque the nut down following factory recommended specifications according to the book, according to the instructions for the heads. So let's go get our studs in place, and then we'll put the head on. We'll open up a head gasket, we'll throw that on, throw the head on, one of the heads on, move over to the other side, do the same thing, and then we'll get the torque wrench out and torque everything down. Okay, so the longer ones, there's 8 studs per cylinder head, so there's 4 longer ones that go up top here, like so, that we'll put in. And then there's 4 shorter ones that go down the bottom. I'm just starting them with my hand, come back with my looks like 3/16 Allen wrench, and we'll snug them down. And we'll do the lower side. Now studs themselves, according to ARP's instructions that I read, just need to be hand tight. So that is all we're gonna do. Would this have been easier out of the car? Probably. down. Now there is no transmission in the car right at the moment. It's just sitting with a jack under it. Okay, there we go. Let's go get our 4 lower bolts or studs. One goes through there. Started. There we go. Now the other side with the studs on is kind of hard to get the head. I don't think I can get the head in place because the brake booster is in the way. Hopefully you guys can see that. I know it's a little dark. I gotta invest in some better lighting. So we'll probably put just 1 or 2 studs in just to hold it, maybe. Actually, it shouldn't need. You shouldn't need to hold it in place because there's these dowels here. So we can put the studs in after we get the head on. There we go. And for those of you wondering, this is cylinder number 1. Okay, last one on this side here. I'm going to open up our head gaskets. We're going to put our head gaskets on. We're going to put this head on, finger tight the washers and the nuts on it. We're going to put the head gasket on the other side, put the head on, and then put the studs in because I can't get clearance to get the head over the stud because the brake booster in this car is in the way. So let's find our head gaskets and come over to our bench over here. Let's open these up carefully. Let's get our studs out of the way here. In the process of kind of organizing stuff. Let's open one up at a time. Don't hit it with your knife because that would be bad. I don't believe there's any particular direction. I do know some of the 3.8s had a left and a right side, but I did not find that with this particular year motor. So you can see it's labeled front, so this will go on the passenger side of the car. Again, up in that upper right hand corner, it says front, so we're going to put it on this way here. Be gentle, you don't want to rip it or damage it. There we go. So there is one of the head gaskets on the car. Again, I gotta invest in some better lighting so you guys can see better. Why am I having so much trouble with this? I wonder if I put the studs in after. Maybe that's what I did. Maybe I put the upper studs in afterwards. Alright, so slight change of plans here. I'm going to take our we're going to at least take our upper studs out. I don't know that I have to take the bottom ones out. I hope I don't. before. Alright, let's take our upper studs out here. Let's put these guys aside for a minute. And see if we can get the head on this way. There we go. Okay. Oh. Alright, I was lining them up in the wrong spot. That's my fault. I was trying to line them up with these holes, which are the push rod holes, which is just one of those days for me. So, all right, let's put our studs back in there. Helps if you get the studs in the right spot. Or excuse me, you get the head in the right spot. And there we go. It's in there finger tight. Just hand tight these guys down again. There we go. I've never used head studs before. This is the first time I've used them. I'm told they should hopefully help it from blowing head gaskets. I don't know. There are several different types of head gaskets you can get for this. I wasn't really sure the specifics, so I stuck with the stock head gasket. I have bought, I don't know, probably 2 or 3 different sets of head gaskets for this car in the attempt to get the best head gasket possible. And the only one that actually lined up 100% with all the water jackets and stuff has been the factory OEM gasket from Fel Pro. Not saying that the other ones wouldn't work, they physically fit, but there were some differences. So each stud gets 1 washer on it and 1 nut. And we'll hand tight these for the moment. Once we get the other head on, we will snug them down. I'll break out the service book and we'll figure out what we gotta torque them to. There is a specific pattern you have to follow. It's not just tighten them until, you know, they're torqued. There's a specific pattern. So that is why that's why we have the factory service manual. So each head gets 4 long studs and 4 short studs, 8 washers, 8 nuts. this guy here. That I'm hoping you'll be able to see on camera. And this is what confused me when I started trying to figure out this. Like I said, I bought multiple head gaskets for this car, and you can see back here we have these water jackets cut out in the head gasket. But if you look up here, there's also 2 water jackets in the block that are not cut out in the head gasket. And when we look at the factory service manual, it shows that you have these water jackets, but it also shows that the front ones are blocked. I guess I never really paid attention before, and I went and looked around and found that the reason for that is you want to force the water to the back of the block and through the head. Otherwise, I guess the cooler water would sit up front here in the block. You know, it wouldn't cycle properly. So this is normal. This is the correct way of doing it, I guess. So we, you know, this is correct. This is not something to be worried about if you see this from what I have read. And again, I'll show you over here. Let's take a look at our factory service manual, and I'll show you what I found. And this is why having a factory service manual around for whatever you're working on is very helpful, because you can go and look and see what you're supposed to do. It doesn't always tell you why. You have to maybe go research that. But so here's our cylinder head removal and installation instructions, and in here you can see this diagram. Hopefully you can pick up on it. So we have an arrow pointed to the front of the engine here. So this is the front of the block, and you can see there are water jacket holes right there in that first cylinder, and they're also in the back cylinder. And if you look at the gasket they have depicted here, you can see they're not cut out in this gasket, but they are in the back. Oh, excuse me, in the front of the gasket, but they are in the back. And again, I believe the reason that they do that, and you can see now, you can see with the head installed, or excuse me, with the gasket installed, again, you can see the water jackets in the back, but not in the front. And I believe the reason that they do that is for cooling purposes, to adjust the flow of cooling, or the flow of the water in the block. So if you guys know more, feel free to leave a comment below, because I don't know enough about it to explain it, other than what I just told you. So that is the correct way of doing it. So if you're putting head gaskets on a 3.8, that's pretty normal. So, alrighty, let's go put let's take our shorty studs here, and we're gonna put those in on the driver's side of the car. Hopefully we'll be able to get the head on even with those in the way. So we'll put these, again, just hand tight, get them started. You want to make sure there's no grime on any of your parts. You don't want dirt in your engine, and this is not really the best place to be building an engine. Should be in a shop on a bench somewhere, so it's not, you really don't want to get dirt and grime in your engine when you're building it. Now hopefully the head will clear these studs, even though the brake booster is in the way. There we go. So now we can put the head on over here, put our top studs in, and then put the washers and nuts on. Alrighty. There we go. Alright, head is on. Let's get our upper longer studs and put those in. Let's put our studs on the top here. Set up our washers here. I'll just start these and then we'll finger tighten them after. Not the most exciting job in the world. There we go. Or to watch me tighten these guys down. Now we've got our Fel Pro head gaskets on, our ARP head studs in, we've got our Super Coupe heads on, we've got the washers and the nuts on the ARP head studs. Now what we need to do is break out the service manual and look and see what the torque specs are for these bolts and what the pattern is. I believe, and I have to go confirm, you start here and work forward and then start to the back here. I've got to go confirm what those numbers are. And there are several different times you have to do it, I believe. So it's not just, set your torque wrench to, whatever the number is, tighten them, and call it good. There's actually a pattern, and you have to work them down. I think it starts at like 50 foot-pounds or something like that, and you work up from there. So that is going to be the next step here. Now we've got to get ready to torque our bolts on our 1997 Ford Mustang Super Coupe motor heads. And I actually found my box because I read the instructions through ARP's webpage, and it said I needed some ARP fastener assembly lubricant, and I thought maybe I had some because obviously I had the kit that it came in, so I found some before I had to go order another packet of it. So I've got to put that on the studs and the nuts, so I'll do that. And then what we need to do, so basically according to this, for torque recommendations, they say, following the manufacturer's recommended torque sequence, tighten the nuts in 3 equal steps to 80 foot-pounds with ARP Ultra Torque Fastener Assembly Lubricant. So the sequence that's here in the shop manual, they want you to tighten it 50 Newton-meter, or 37 foot-pounds, 45 foot-pounds, 52 foot-pounds, and then 59 foot-pounds. Back off 2 to 3 turns, and then tighten to 52 foot-pounds, and then rotate an additional 90 degrees. And then what we need to do, like I said earlier in the video, we're starting with the, I don't know if you can clearly see this on camera. So these are the back 2 bolts. We're going to move, this is the front end, this is on the driver's side head. This is the far rear 2 bolts. We're going to move in a set, tighten these 2, so 1, 2, 3, 4, move back, go to 5, 6, 7, and 8. We're going to do that on each of the heads the same way, and we are going to basically follow this guide here in order to get the bolts torqued appropriately. So let me get the assembly lubricant on our studs and washers, and then we'll break out the torque wrench and we'll start tightening our ARP head studs down. Did some reading after I got the ARP lubricant on the studs and the nuts and the washers. I think what we're going to do, because it says 3 equal steps, we need to torque it to 3 equal steps to 80 foot-pounds. So we're going to first torque them to 26 foot-pounds, then 54 foot-pounds, and then finally 80 foot-pounds. And then we're going to follow in this sequence here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on each of the heads, because the torque specs for studs versus the torque to yield bolts are different from what I read and researched. And one of you guys can yell at me in the comments if this is wrong, but this is excuse me, this is what I have researched. So that is what we're going to do. We're going to follow this sequence, and we have to get to 80 foot-pounds equally. So if you kind of split up 83 times, we can get 26 foot-pounds initially, then go to 54, and then finally 80. That should be pretty close to where we need to be. So let's grab our torque wrench here, open it up. I don't even know if mine goes that low to 26 foot-pounds. That's pretty low. Got it pretty close to 26 foot-pounds. The camera probably won't pick up on that. Let's try this out. So there we go, 26, 3, 4, and 8. Okay. This should be right at 50 foot-pounds. Okay, there we go. Maybe I'm trying to make it a little too complicated here. Okay, there we go. One side of our block is done. Note to self, if you're doing anything serious, don't buy this torque wrench. It really kind of sucks. Had some trouble getting these guys to, and it might not be the torque wrench, it might be me and my inexperience with you know, torquing some cylinder head bolts down. I just don't, my fear is snapping a bolt in or the stud in the block and then having to take the whole thing apart again and starting over. So that is not the plan here. So I'm just going very gingerly with it and kind of working back and forth until I get to the 80 foot-pounds that the instructions for the ARP head studs require. So let's move on to the driver's side. Okay, there we go. Let's move up here. First round, almost done. We have to put our stubby back on for that one. Okay. Alright, this is our first round done on this side. Stubby here. Alright, almost done. Last one. Okay, there we go. All right. So we are done with both sides now. What I ended up doing for torque specs, I started at 30, went to 60, and then I went to 80, which is what the manual calls for. So rough, well, not the 30, 60, 80 beats. That's kind of to be determined. But you need to be at 80 foot-pounds. So that is where we're at. That was a mess of work. That you definitely feel your muscles in your upper back with that. So we've got these torqued down now, and we can move on to other parts of the car. Guys, if you like these videos, please like and subscribe below. Thumbs up, thumbs down, leave me a comment. You know, if you like more of these Mustang videos, let me know. I got plenty of content on this car coming. We've got the gas tank in the last video. We went over putting that back together. I've got to get it back in the car, and before we can do that, we've got to clean up and paint the underside of the back of the car there. So if you like these videos, I'm going to try and keep them coming. I actually got the car cleaned out, so I'll try and give you maybe a little bit of a tour of the car today, because I've never really given it a tour on the channel. Kind of go over some of the things that I want to do with it. So if you like the videos, please like and subscribe below. Turn on your bell notifications so you get the latest updates when I post a new video. And you can also follow along on social media at ACH Automotive. I'll put the links in the description.